Hey guys, we are back today. We're talking about the second part of motivation. That is, we're going to get more into what motivates us. There are three things that scientists typically look at: hunger, sex, and achievement. So let's get started. As soon as this will load. Okay, so one thing I want you to understand about the theories of motivation, we've talked about those before, right? The optimal arousal theory, drive reduction theory, and Maslow's hierarchy theory. There's no single theory that accounts for all forms of motivation because, I mean, each motive of the human body, number one, is unique to every single individual. And number two, it has its own combination of biological, psychological, and environmental influences. Environmental meaning sociocultural influences that make it exist. And then on top of that, we each have our own personality, and so we each respond differently to those motives. So it's really hard to measure that in any way. So while all of these theories do account for some forms of motivation, not a single one can explain everything. All the theories have similarities and differences to them, but the one thing that they all have in common that you should know is that they all have biological, psychological, and environmental influences at play to encourage that motivation. All right, so the biological basis of hunger. We're going to talk about hunger, which is one of the key drives in the body, right? You would not survive if you didn't eat. Interestingly enough, hunger does not come from your stomach, it comes from your brain. There's something called a set point, and we all have one of these. And this is the point at which we feel full, that we feel set, we're satiated. It's more complex than that. It's actually it's a set metabolic point. So your metabolism likes to exist at a certain point. And because of that, you either eat more or less based on how high or low that set point is. Now, talking about that, let's get into metabolic rate. The metabolic rate of your body also triggers your your hunger. So if you have a higher metabolism, you're going to be hungry more often because you're going to be burning more calories more often. If you have a slower metabolism, then you're not going to get hungry as often because you're not burning as many calories, and so your food lasts longer. The number of fat cells that you have in your body also kind of determines this for us. If you have more fat cells in your body, then they release a chemical known as leptin, and that's right here. That's what I have right here for you. And this actually signals to your brain, we don't need any more food, we've got enough fat stored, so we can eat for a while, don't worry about it. Well, we're going to talk about in class, but the people who are obese, they actually have a problem sending this signal to the brain. Something blocks it for them, and it's usually high amounts of insulin are blocking the leptin from getting to the brain and telling you that you've had enough to eat. So your hypothalamus, we're talking about biological, think all the physical stuff. Your hypothalamus is really important here. There are two things that it has. There's the lateral hypothalamus and the ventromedial hypothalamus. The lateral hypothalamus triggers hunger, okay? The ventromedial says you're full, all right? So these two guys, if they're not working properly, then you're either starving yourself or overeating. Now your pituitary gland, this controls your metabolism because it communicates with your thyroid. Your thyroid really is the control center for your metabolism, but because your pituitary gland communicates with your thyroid, they keep your metabolism in check. So your metabolism will slow down if there's not enough food around so that you can preserve the fat in the body. So if you're in a starvation mode, your metabolism will slow down. So starving yourself actually is not good for losing weight. And if there's plenty of food around, your metabolism should be kicking up into high gear unless you're eating foods that cause you to be more sluggish. All right, hunger and the environment. So we just talked about the biological basis of your hunger. Now let's look at your environment. So everybody has a different motivation for their hunger, and it's a result of their specific environment, right? In the U.S., we perceive food as a gathering place. Whenever somebody comes over, you put out something to eat on the coffee table. Thanksgiving, Christmas, every major holiday is centered around food. Even the Super Bowl is really about the food. I don't care what any of you say, it's not about the football, it's about the food. And the commercials. And then our friends, right? So we want to eat with our friends because we want to socialize with our friends and our family as well. When we socialize, we eat. It depends a lot on the time of day. So in the United States, we have dictated expectation that you're going to take lunch between 11 and 1. So you need to be hungry in that time period in order to eat. And if you're not hungry, you still eat in that time period because you're not allowed to eat at work or in classrooms at school, that sort of thing. So our understanding of what a work day is and our understanding of what a school day is dictates when it's time for you to eat. And then culturally, what to eat, right? So Indian cultures are, majority vegetarian. So there's a lot of vegetarian food there. Some other cultures eat bugs. Japanese people eat dogs. These sorts of things play into your hunger. The cost of the food also plays into your hunger, right? So if something is really expensive, you're not likely to buy that. So you're more likely to buy things that are cheaper. And so you'll be hungrier for those things that are cheaper. And then also your body image, right? So if you perceive yourself to be fat, you're going to try and eat leaner foods. Then if you perceive yourself to be thin, you're going to try and eat fattier foods and more carb-dense foods to bulk up. So all of these things, all of these social, cultural things affect how you eat, when you eat, what you eat. All right, let's move on to motivation and sex. So we have biological motivations for sex, right? Instinct theory is obviously that we have the instinct to reproduce and survive. So our motivation for sex is reproduction. Then there are other thoughts on this. The need for attachment, right? We want to imprint on others, we want to emotionally connect. Sex is one way to do that. Remember Harry Harlow's monkeys? He would drink from the wire monkey, but then he would immediately go over to the cloth monkey. He wouldn't eat as much as he needed to because the feeling of comfort and attachment and imprinting is more important than the need for food sometimes. So, the brain versus the body. This is interesting. The brain-body relationship is really kind of cool. Your brain is actually addicted to love because it's addicted to the chemical dopamine that gets emitted when you're in love. Finally, your hormone levels. Your level of oxytocin in the body, which is a pheromone that is emitted when you see someone that you're attracted to. And so if you are attracted to someone, it's a biological drive for sex, and so oxytocin will be released. The amount of estrogen and androgens in your body also factor into this need. All right, environmental motivations for sex. There's peer pressure, right? You guys are in that age group right now. We're like, well, why haven't you done it yet? Blah, 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 right? Media, there's so many movies out that illustrate teenagers and their focus on losing their virginity before they go to college, that sort of thing. The cultural expectation for girls is to, save it, right? And then the cultural expectation for boys is to have sex with as many people as possible, typically, right? These are huge, gross stereotypes, and it doesn't apply to everybody, but that's the case. Because of our need for belonging, we want to be accepted by our societies and by our peers, and so we usually tend to be motivated to have sex or to not have sex in order to satisfy that need. All right, there's some interesting studies in sexuality. So Alfred Kinsey in 1948 studies sexuality. He interviews 17,000 Americans concerning their sexual behavior, and it has an interesting finding. Certain sexual behaviors considered rare were actually very common. So we're going to look more into that in class, but that's one of them. Masters and Johnson in the 60s and 70s, they brought sex into a laboratory, and they actually observed people having sex in a lab. And they noticed the sexual response cycle. So there's a 4-stage sequence of arousal, there's plateau, there's orgasm, and then there's resolution occurring in both men and women. That this was successful or not successful. Oh, come on. There we go. All right, and that is going to do it for this video cast, guys. So I'll see you with the next one. And we're back, guys. Sorry about that. Actually, I'm not ending the video there. We're going to go a little bit farther today. I was having issues with the computer, but it seems to have worked itself out. So let's get back into this. We just talked about studies in sexuality. We're going to look at that more in class. So never you fear. We will talk about it more. If those didn't make sense to you, don't worry. They will soon. And we're going to talk about our last one, which is achievement. So everyone has a need to achieve, and that just means that you may have a low need to achieve or a high level need to achieve, but everyone has a need to achieve. There's biological motivations, once again. So achievement motivation is the desire for significant accomplishment, for mastering skills and ideas, for control, for rapidly attaining a high standard. So it's a very large concept, this achievement, and it depends on what you want to achieve, really, whether or not you're motivated to do it. So let's have this conversation. Are genetics built into that? Are people like born with a need for achievement that's greater than other people? What about natural talents? Are your natural talents going to push you to want to achieve things that you wouldn't normally if you weren't talented in that area? That sort of stuff are the questions that we're going to be asking for. Ebb and flow. Does your need for achievement kind of ebb and flow throughout your life? What goes on there? Your environmental motivations, obviously family and peer pressure. If your dad was a track star, maybe you were motivated to be one as well, right? Rewards, so maybe you just like winning and you're really good at winning in this particular area, so you appreciate the reward of winning because of that. Because of what you're doing there. And so your need to achieve in that area is to simply gain the reward. And then there's gender role stereotyping. Girls are supposed to be good at raising babies. And so you want to achieve that. You want to be successful at that, right? And then there's also the threat of stereotype. If boys are really good at raising babies, what does that say? Obviously today that is not the best example because the role of male and female is blurring now that we have guys who stay at home and raise the kids now and that sort of thing, and women who go off to work. But the threat of being stereotyped for not achieving in a certain area is also a motivator. All right, so a little bit more on achievement. If you have high achievement motivation, you will achieve more in your life that compared to those with low achievement motivation, and you want harder, more challenging tasks to work on. People with low achievement motivation, they typically want easy tasks, and they typically achieve less in their life than their counterparts. So what does this all mean? It means that if you want to achieve something, you need to set reachable goals that are both short and long term. And more importantly, you need to write them down, and then you need to update them periodically so that you're committed to them. And the last thing I want to touch upon is industrial organizational psychology. If you're interested in this concept of achievement, then you will love industrial org psychology, and they're some of the highest paid people in the profession because their job is all about figuring out how to make businesses more successful by making the people that work there healthier and happier to be doing so. So they're increasing productivity of individual employees, they're increasing the profitability of the company through the employees, they're decreasing expenses associated with hiring and firing, mostly because they're decreasing employee turnover. They're getting people to stay, and they're improving workplace environments. They're improving boss-employee relations. Maybe cubicles are not conducive to what they're doing, so they're redesigning spaces, bringing in food, bringing in rewards and prizes, all these different motivators to get people to want to achieve. So if you're interested in that, come and talk to me. We can talk more about it. But that is going to do it for today, guys. That is the end of our podcast. I swear I'm not coming back for anything more. So have a good night. We'll see you next time.